Hi everyone, welcome back to the garden. We're after a gloriously golden start. The weather has once again become grey, miserable and a little bit gloomy, but that doesn't matter because now we're in November and it's time for one of the most important gardening jobs of the year. Yes, at this time of the year, once the tender plants are sorted out, the next most important thing that you can do in your garden is mulching. Yes, it's not the most exciting, sexy topic out there, but it's definitely productive, it's definitely satisfying, and it's definitely something that you can be doing right now. So let me tell you about my favourite mulches and how I use them here in my garden. Obviously then, you can use mulches like bark chippings or more permanent options like gravel, pebbles, slate chippings, that kind of thing, to give a finished, polished look to a completed border of more permanent planting and help keep the weeds down. But we're not talking about that today. We're talking about applying a mulch to a working border, an area like this behind me here, where most of the planting is permanent, but you dig it up through the year, you add things in, it's going to get mixed up, changed around, new plants display themselves throughout the year and the years. So this border here, I don't want to give it a complete finished look. I want to improve the soil, and mulching has so many benefits. Now, I know you know most of these. You probably see my videos. I tend to do one every single year, going through why mulching is such an important job. But just to summarise, it keeps the weeds down. Obviously, in my garden, there isn't a single weed to see, not a single weed at all, maybe a few. But it really is important. And you can do this anytime really, from autumn to spring, I think works best. The second main benefit is it helps lock the moisture that's already in the soil from these damp autumn days. It keeps it in there, which is hugely important as we go through these drier years. This year, spring, summer, completely dry. And areas like this in my garden here have really struggled. The next best thing is that they actually help improve the structure of the soil. As the worms come up and bring the various nutrients down as they rot into the soil, it really helps improve the aeration of the soil. The structure improves down, plants can get the roots down further. That again helps the resilience of the plants through these tougher periods. And then there's a simple matter. Anything that's organic matter, as it rots down, it provides nutrition for the plants. So this really is the best thing that you can do to help improve the look of your border, but also help improve the life below the soil and the life of your plants next year. So let's go into my problem area and why mulching is so important for it. Another huge benefit of mulching then, if you grow a lot of tender plants, like I tend to up there in the jungle garden, is that it helps just shield the roots, the rhizomes, the columns, the tubers from the worst of the winter cold. But with this area here, I don't really have any tender plants. It's more about improving the soil. You see, regular viewers, you might remember this area, I struggle with the ground. There's so many trees just sucking the moisture from the soil. It really is incredibly dry. And it's only really the last couple of weeks that it started to dampen up, and we're in November. So I really need to add as much organic matter to this soil as I can to improve it. You might have areas like that over there, holes in your garden, left when you dig up tender plants. So first off, I want to go through what I call the heavier mulches. These really are the heavy lifters when it comes to improving the soil and improving how well your plants grow. So let's get into those. I've just then brought up a couple of bags to give you an idea of the kind of products I'm using on my garden here. But when it comes to mulching, there's a few rules that you need to know first. Obviously, the first rule of Mulch Club is don't talk about Mulch Club. But the second rule is definitely, if you've got a medium or larger garden, don't try to mulch your whole garden. I mean, it's fantastic if you can, but it does take amount of time, amount of effort, and amount of material as well. So definitely focus, prioritize on the areas that need it most. So for me here in my garden, the areas that I always prioritize are really the parts of the garden that I want and expect the most growth from. The herbaceous areas, the areas with the large exotic perennials, and also around the bamboo, the problem areas of the garden where I really want to improve the soil. I don't, for example, really tend to use organic matter-based mulches around my Mediterranean or arid planting because those plants don't really need the summer moisture and they also thrive in poorer soil conditions anyway. So I'm going to focus my efforts today on this area here because, like I mentioned, it's a problem area. And that's really crucial. If you've got soil which isn't a nice loamy friable mix like I'm generally lucky enough to have here, if you've got heavy clay soil or sandy soil, adding organic matter is the best thing you can do. I'm sure you've heard that before. So the first rule I would say is just focus on a problem area or the area of your garden that you want the most growth from, even just part of a border. And the main reason for that is because simply you want to put enough on it. There's no point mulching your whole garden. I mean, it's going to help, but just putting an inch everywhere, it'll soon disappear. You won't get all the benefits. But by just focusing on one area, putting a nice thick layer of 4 or 5 inches, which I won't be doing today with those 2 bags, but I have got some more around the front. It really does help to give that blanket of goodness to the soil, provide all the benefits I spoke about earlier, and really help completely block out those weeds, protect the roots, and really trap that moisture in. So what products have I got then to liven up this already thrilling video? Well, behind me then, I've got 2 examples. On my left here, we've got a bag of farmyard manure. This is fantastic. Great especially for areas that you want a lot of big growth from next year. Greedy plants, vegetables like squashes, pumpkins, cucumbers, they love the organic matter. Areas of jungle or tropical style planting, again, fantastic. Plants like these bamboo completely thrive on it. It helps create that kind of woodland forest style soil, great structure, more friable, and they can really get the roots into it. So farmyard manure, horse manure, soil conditioner, mushroom compost, or even better, if you've got homemade compost, or possibly the gold standard, which is homemade leaf mold. If you've got that, any kind of border will absolutely love it. Like I said, I don't focus on the arid and Mediterranean areas, but when it comes to this area here, which is a blend of hungry giant bamboos and also mixed exotic herbaceous planting, they will love all the nutrients, all the richness and all the structure that these will give to the garden. And on that side there, I've simply got an old grow bag. I've got a few for my father-in-law that is used to grow tomatoes and other vegetables in this summer. So obviously you won't use those again next year to grow veg or flowers in, but that compost is still fantastic for adding to a border and really improving the soil that's there. So any of these kind of products work. I generally call these the heavy products because they are literally heavy. They either come in bags or they need to be rotted down. They're generally weighty organic products, and these you can really apply to a nice thick layer. They will sit in the soil for a while, but over the years, they definitely disappear into the ground and they definitely work their magic. So let me chuck those out and then we'll move on to the next layer of this beautiful organic lasagna. So with this being a bamboo, I'm literally just chucking this manure around the base. Feel free to imagine I've got another 50 bags of these and I'm going to do the complete border. And that's what I'll try to do over the next few weeks. But with plants like bamboo, you can really pack the manure right around them. The third rule of Mulch Club is if you've got a woody plant, a shrub or a tree, you don't want to use any kind of manure or heavy mulch like this right up to the trunk of it. You definitely want to leave a gap around it because otherwise it can actually lead to it rotting away, getting fungal issues. You definitely don't want that. But plants like bamboo and other herbaceous plants, which naturally rot down anyway, you can give them a nice thick mulch around. It just looks so good after you've done it, doesn't it? Such a satisfying job. Whether you're doing it in autumn to tidy up a border for winter, or even in spring, just to give a border that proper polished look as you head into a new growing season, it really is such a satisfying thing to do. So just tip all that out. I just love the rich darkness of anything like this. I know it's a little bit sad and geeky, but how can you not enjoy it? Just imagine if I had enough of this to cover the whole border to that kind of depth, it would just look sensational, wouldn't it? For a few months at least. It's surprising how quick it does rot down, but that only just goes to show how much goodness it adds to the soil. So that's roughly the kind of depth that I would go to. Beautiful. Now, if you've got spent compost from maybe summer display pots, annuals, anything like that, get it on the ground. It really is the best thing that you can do with it. Don't go chucking it away. But it's not all about heavy bagged products, which you might have to buy in or get from a local farm. There's plenty of things that you've got in your garden that you can use to improve the soil. The next thing then that I look forward to putting in my borders every single year are very simply the old plants from this year. Yes, chopping down tender perennials, the plants that winter naturally cuts back anyway. Plants like cannas here, the enseti leaves when you do chop those down, your old musabaju leaves, any kind of coleus or tender annuals, they can all get ripped up, chopped up and put in the borders. If you saw my video called the rainforest method, that is exactly what I described. Other people have more succinctly described it as the chop and drop method. But generally speaking here, I tend to just gather everything in a big pile. When I cut everything down over winter, get a huge mound of leaves from the cannas, the gingers, all the other tender stuff. And then, rather than just dropping it exactly where it came from, I use it in the parts of the garden where it's needed the most. Things like these cannas here, there's a few tips for using them on your borders. First thing I would say is, these are obviously softer. if you've got some big grasses, most of the grasses I tend to leave until spring anyway, but when it comes to Miscanthus lutearia riparius, that one can be very messy and it just sheds dry leaves everywhere in winter. So if you cut anything back that's a bit browner, a bit harder, just keep in mind that it will take longer to rot down. So don't put that around somewhere where you've got maybe spring bulbs, other plants coming through. You need to be mindful of what you've got in the ground. And that's possibly another tip. Definitely don't forget about your ground covers. The amount of Asarum europaeum and other ground covers I probably lost over the years by covering them over with an over-enthusiastic mulch. Possibly let's not even go there. But just be mindful about what's there, what's currently growing, what you can't cover up, and also what you've got to look forward to in spring. Now, if I was putting these on an area of garden I wasn't going to dig up or do anything with next year, I would simply just chuck them on like they are now. The clever people amongst you might actually think, why didn't you put all these soft things on the ground before placing the heavier compost over the top to help them rot down quicker and weigh them down? That would be a truly brilliant idea. But in this video, I want to start off with the most important thing first. But when it comes to putting these canners down, it's very simple. What I tend to do these days is just hack them up a lot. So get some old secateurs and just literally cut them up into sections like that. And what you'll find is you will get a lot of waste from your garden throughout this autumn, and it will be enough to cover a large section of ground. Canners, gingers especially, are prolific. You imagine a 2-metre stem and you can probably get 6, 10 of them maybe out of a single plant. That's a lot of organic matter to go on the ground, and it soon rots down, so don't worry if it's mounded up. Obviously I won't be chopping up most of my garden just to provide a demo for today's video, because this autumn so far has been incredibly mild. Almost, dare I say it, reminiscent of 2022, when we had an incredibly mild autumn leading into, well, we won't go there, will we? A very cold start to winter. But I'll be leaving all my canners, all the gingers, all the salvias, everything in the ground for as long as I possibly can, and I won't be chopping anything back just yet. But you get the general principle. Chop them up, cut them into pieces, and scatter them liberally around the area that you want to improve. And if you want to put the heavy mulch on top to help weigh them down, that's fantastic. But if you don't grow a lot of tender perennials, if you don't grow annuals, if you don't have a lot of old veg plants and stuff that you can chop and put on your borders, what can you do? Well, there's something that you can definitely use. And I'm pretty sure even if you don't have one growing in your garden, there's a tree nearby which can definitely help you out. Yes, this autumn, possibly as a result of the drier summer, the autumn colour has been spectacular. This cherry tree above me now has mostly lost all its beautiful golden yellow leaves, but the one behind me there is a magnificent red colour. Just look at some of these leaves. Bright reds, golden yellows, what a beautiful time of year. And all this, even though the trees aren't in my garden, can be used to help improve my garden. It's such an easy thing to do. Don't, whatever you do, sweep up the leaves from your patios, from your lawns, and put them in your recycling bin. You are literally giving away one of the best gifts that your garden can give you. So all I simply do here, again, feel free to imagine that I've got beautiful landscape patioed paths through here. I've just got mud at the minute, but it will be sorted. It's just sweep all these leaves up. It's as simple as that. No, you don't need a leaf blower or anything like that. A brush and something to pick the leaves up if you haven't got hands like shovels works perfectly fine. Yes, if they're on the lawn, you can mow over them to really shred them down to fines that rot down in no time at all. But here in my garden, it's very much a case of just literally going through the whole area here, sweep them up into piles and putting them on the borders. So these can literally go on top of the bamboo. And with all the moisture that we're going to get over the coming week, these will pretty much stay where they are. They'll rot down nicely and really add to the soil. No, they're not going to add a huge amount in the way of nutrients, and they're not going to really be a thick enough layer to stop the weeds next spring. But what these give the soil is that structure that us gardeners absolutely yearn for. The worms will drag these down. They'll create little channels, funnels through the soil to pull them down. That means that the soil can breathe so much more. And it's that kind of action, along with the organic matter that these give the soil, that really helps to improve your soil. If you've got heavy clay, just having those little paths through it will help break it down. And this organic matter will make it more amenable to roots actually living down there. And if you've got sandy soil, this is the goodness that will help your plants survive and be more resilient through those drier periods. So just sweep it up. Now, if you've got an area of tender plants like I have here, all the gingers, you can literally just put these around the base of them. That's all I do, as simple as that. Around November time, when the hardy begonias are just starting to turn yellow, you can pack the leaves in around them. Or if you're trying to improve a whole border, just literally sweep them up and put them on the border. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. Again, a very satisfying job. I don't generally talk about the whole mindfulness and gentle mental benefits to gardening. I don't talk about them enough, but let's face it, there's plenty of people talk about that these days. I personally just know that I enjoy the simple action of sweeping up the garden, tidying it, and know that I'm improving it for next year. And it also, I guess really there's something about the cyclical nature of the seasons, isn't there? Being in touch with what's actually happening out here. I might only get a couple of days out here a month at the minute, but just seeing the trees change colour, seeing those little seasonal moments happen, and getting to do little tasks like this, it really does make you feel in touch with the world around, doesn't it? And all of us that do get a chance to do things like this, really, we're so lucky and privileged, aren't we? But anyway, don't worry, it's not me one of those videos. This is very much firmly practical advice. Just to recap then, those first two groups of mulches, those are what definitely bring the most benefits to my garden, and now is a fantastic time to apply them. If you've got an area, a border, even just a part of your garden where the soil is problematic, if you want to improve the water retention of that soil, if you want to help improve the structure, and if you want to add nutrition, definitely the soil conditioners, farmyard manures, any old compost is fantastic for doing that. And whilst it can take a bit of effort and it can often cost money, definitely try local farms that might have some well-rotted manure. Go to your B&Qs, your Wicks, your local garden centres, and often check outside and you might find some rip bags that they're selling off for cheap. That's what I've tended to do over the years, and add as much of that as you can to that border. Just be mindful not to mound up around woody trees or shrubs. And that second group, the leaves, whether they're chopped down foliage from your garden or leaves which rain down from the world around us, you can use those, just chuck them on your borders. Definitely don't throw them out. If you do, I will hunt you down and I will inform you. But there's a third group of mulches. Mulches which have a specific purpose in my garden. And those tend to either be straw, which you can get again from a local farm, or potentially you can go, as I do here, go to a local pet shop where they sell nice big bales for around £5, not ridiculously expensive, or bark chippings, and I use those for a specific purpose. So for example here, we've got a colocasia pink china. This plant, beautiful exotic, is supposed to be incredibly tough and hardy. In fact, this is the Yorkshire crisp-form, the famous hardy Yorkshire crisp-form, which I got from Shane Bilson. So if it survived for Chris in Wakefield and survived for Shane in Stoke-on-Trent, it should be just fine here. But with it being the first year and it being quite recently planted, I will be giving it a mulch. And for something like this, rather than autumn leaves which rot down very quickly, I'll just simply mound up some straw around it. Any time now is fantastic, really, because the next cold spell we get, chances are we're going to get close to freezing, maybe even below freezing. We're now in November. Let's face it, these plants had a good innings. So just packing a nice bit of straw over the top of it. Again, it's about creating that blanket to trap any kind of warm air in, to help keep the frost away, to help protect the plant during prolonged periods of cold, and just give it a little bit of protection. So that's what I do to softer plants like this. If you grow some potentially half-hardy gingers, maybe some new hardy-ish begonias that you want to try out this year, maybe plants like this here, this colocasia, then definitely a nice little mound of straw simply around the top of it. You can use the leaves, but I think straw, it just tends to insulate a little bit better. That is a great thing to do. And the other option that I described is bark chippings. Now with bark chippings, they obviously don't rot down as quickly, which means they're great for paths and creating a more finished part of a permanent border. But I tend to use them if I want to mulch maybe a tree or a shrub. This time of the year, when everything's naturally dying down, fading, it's a great time to renew the mulches, particularly around actually newly planted trees, shrubs, ones that were planted last year. Just give them another layer of bark chippings around the top of it. Again, don't go right up to the trunk, but what that'll do is it'll reduce competition. Even the most mighty eucalyptus can actually be slowed down hugely by grass and weeds growing right up around the base, particularly when they're small. So definitely a good mulch, a bark, or something like that which takes a lot longer to break down is fantastic to help keep those weeds down, keep the water locked in next summer, and help to reduce the weed competition. There we go then, mulching. And I told you it wasn't going to be a sexy and exciting topic. Didn't that surprise you? Well, what I'll be doing for the remainder of autumn is basically emptying all the pots of plants that I've been putting around the house, my summer displays, using all that compost in this area here. Everything that gets chopped down, again, it'll be going in this spot here. And as I continue to sweep those beautiful autumn leaves up, once again, they'll be going on this border here. Yes, you could do it in a more structured way, getting the leaves down and creating that beautiful layered lasagna with the heavier stuff at the top. But let's face it, it all works. It's all going to rot down, so I'll be just chucking it on this border. It really is as simple as that. If you've got the budget to and want to improve an area, I definitely recommend pretty much getting any bagged product from a garden centre and putting it on the ground. That's fantastic. I would try to avoid the peat-based compost because they don't really add that much to the soil. They don't add that much goodness. It's really all about the manures, the soil conditioners, the products that are made up of organic matter, rich in nutrition that will really help improve the structure and fertility of your soil. Also, one thing I would mention, don't just buy topsoil and empty that in your garden, because topsoil is basically made up, as the name implies, of soil. It's not literally made up of organic matter that will disappear and rot down, that will sit there. It's basically made up of the same soil that you've got in your garden. So don't really use that as a mulch. But other than that, pretty much any kind of bag of spent compost, old compost, horse manure, farmyard manure, it's all good. It all improves the soil and it all can boost the growth of plants like bamboo. Your summer tropical plants, your flamboyant exotic display next year will all be greatly benefited by it. And it's something that, to be honest with you, as much as we don't tend to talk about putting the garden to bed these days, I really enjoy the process of chopping things down. You know, it's quite a tactile, thrilling process of just hacking plants up and knowing that I'm improving next year's garden. So rather than thinking about it as putting your garden to bed this year, think of it as getting a head start next year, doing the best thing that you can do now to get a magnificent, better than ever garden next year, which is what it's all about. And it's not just great for you, it's not just great for your plants, it's fantastic for all the wildlife too. All the bugs, beetles, worms, and every kind of life form under the soil that thrives with this kind of organic matter, it will absolutely appreciate it. Just cut stuff down, chuck it on your borders, as simple as that. So there we go. I hope you've all had a fantastic weekend. If you've got any tips, tricks, or ideas of products to mulch that I haven't mentioned today, then feel free to leave them in the comment section below. But anyway, something for you all to do over the next month or so. Definitely a busy time in the garden, but certainly a productive one. Thank you very much as always for watching. I'll see you next time. See you later.